I've just been given two brand new Seikos that commemorate a lost reference from the 1970s. The only problem is this Seiko being lazy? Let's get into it. Yes! Welcome to the Mad Watch Collector Show. So in the 1970s, Seiko released the Time Sonar chronograph. This watch didn't have any subdials because it was literally a 60-second stopwatch. This also had flyback capabilities. As it was ticking along, you could reset it straight away. But the very cool thing about the watch was it was see-through. Something very trippy for the 70s, that's for sure. And you could see the day and the date wheel as if it was some sort of graffiti wall. Together with a really bright and vibrant chronograph hand, the watch had the look of a sonar. And we had a blue version and a brown version. Anyway, to celebrate the Time Sonar, Seiko have released a couple of new watches that look rather familiar. Familiar for two reasons. One being that these look like the Time Sonars of the 70s. The second reason is because they've made them out of the Seiko 5KX body. You know, the old SKX that was discontinued and then brought back to life, not ISO certified and not with a screw down crown. I'm truly grateful that Francis & GAYE Jewelers sent these in to me. I'll review them and ship them back as I normally do. Take a look at the website because they got a tremendous amount of watches that you and I love. So, are these new watches worth buying? There's only one way to find out. Are you sonar ready? Let's go! Okay, so here they are. The SRPJ 45 and 47. And I must say, these look very cool. I'm very familiar with the body of this watch and know that it's awesome. These watches are stainless steel, brushing on the front of the lugs and polishing around the sides of the case, just like the original SKX. Obviously, you are drawn to that dial, aren't you? The Time Sonar, to be fair, was a completely different looking animal. There was a tachymeter around the outside of that dial, as well as Time Sonar actually being on the dial too. In fact, to be honest, these watches look more like SKXs than they do Time Sonars, let's be fair. But on first impressions, these are pretty fun looking watches. Quick spec check! Okay, so it's the SKX, isn't it? 42.5mm in diameter, 13.5 thick, 46 lug to lug, which is fantastic for such a biggish diver.
Dive style, I mean.
And a 22mm lug width. But we also have drilled lugs, something the SKX didn't have. The dial is protected by a hardlex crystal. However, unlike the SKX, we do not have a screw down crown. No screw down crown, but a screw down case back gives this watch 100 meters of water resistance. Something different with the case back is, oh, for Brutus, get down, you silly dog. Oh, got a horsey throat. Bumblebee, bumblebee, bumblebee. Oh. And welcome to the Design House, where we take a look at a watch's caseback. And today, a beautiful Seiko commemorating a watch from the 70s. Oh, I remember the 70s. They were a fun time. Anyway, let's take a look at this beautiful Seiko 5's caseback, shall we? I have excitement and disappointment at the same time. I can see that there is movement in there. It is see-through, it is an exhibition, but it is also clouded over, giving mystery and mystique. The cogs and wheels are shrouded by a dark force. What a fabulous caseback to see, with a lot of light. I'll see you next time for another edition of the Design House. Cut. Lovely. A mystified caseback. To the drawing room! Now, funnily enough, the 7015s that came out in the 70s had a misted over display caseback as well, but what I do like is how flush that hardlex is against the caseback. Onto the bezel, and if you are not fortunate to ever have owned an SKX, if you buy one of these Seiko 5s, you've got the exact bezel action. Great retro aluminium insert, 120 clicks, unidirectional. I'm not gonna bother giving this to Kurt Santana for the World Bezeling Federation because I know it would not not make the top 10 for this year. Spongy, clicky, it's a Seiko budget bezel, and that's all there is to it. Super! Gotta say the bracelet is hollow links, push pins, press clasp, very rattly. You're not buying the watch for the bracelet, let's put it that way. I'd either get myself a Jubilee bracelet from Uncle Straps or a beautiful FKM rubber strap from Clockwork Republic.
Could you just click that like button, please? It really helps the channel. Thank you.
Okay, let's look at the face. Dial time. And let's be fair, this is why you'd buy the watch. In all honesty, what Seiko have done here is lazy. A little bit, isn't it? Come on. They've taken the entry-level dive
style, I mean.
Swapped the dial for these transparent ones, matched the colours to those 70s sonars, Bob's your uncle,
Fanny's your sister,
and you've got yourself a brand new Seiko 5. Looking closer, the dial isn't just flat, there are radial patterns to it. I do like the applied markers with the silver frame, together with the polished handset. Basically an SKX dial, great legibility, day and date complication on the right, and because of the day and date wheel, so you can see the other days and numbers through that dial. I have to say I'm drawn to the blue more because I like blue. We've got Lume on the handset, Lume on the hour markers, no Lume on the bezel pip. That just reinforces the dive style to you, doesn't it? Let's see how this glows, shall we? So out of 10, a good solid 8.
Solid.
I have never been let down by a Seiko Lume, and it's nice to know that even in these affordable watches, Seiko are still pumping the glow. Powering these watches is an in-house 4R35. 21,600 beats per hour, hacking and hand winding, just over 40 hours of power reserve, and a definite upgrade from the 7S26 back in the old days with the SKX. Look at me changing the day and the date. How cool is that? You're basically moving and changing the entire dial. And the cool thing is, throughout the days of the week, your watch is going to look completely different. So that's nice.
Hello.
On my 6.5-inch wrist, and this watch fits just like an SKX. Yes, the diameter may be big, but 46 lug to lug, this looks great. And I have to say, this is definitely a starer, isn't it? You know, one of these watches you don't just look for the time, you're there staring at the whole dial for a bit. And all Seiko's done is made a 5KX's dial transparent. Give us the positives. Okay, so I'll start with the price because I think that's quite good. £260 from Francis & Gay Jewellers. You've got a very good looking watch with an in-house movement, 100 meters of water resistance. I think this is a great watch for someone getting into Seiko. I really love the dials of these things as well as the colors.
Not many brands use brown for the dial these days, do they, eh?
Give us the negatives. It's lazy. They took a 5KX and all they did is change the dial, change the case back and release it and call it a Time Sonar. I think the clouded over case back is completely pointless. The 4R35 isn't much to look at, but if you've gone to the trouble to make an exhibition of it, let us see the damn thing. To me, it's respect and disrespect to the Time Sonar and to the SKX. But listen, at the end of the day, if these watches make someone get into Seiko and the watch collecting hobby, then who am I to argue with it? To sum up, love the dial, but not sure about everything else. Here it is, my wife's first impressions of the Seiko Sonar Times. Yeah, I don't dislike them. One of them looks like I'm in a cave and it's hieroglyphics. The other one, I'm getting surfer vibes. What is the point of this case back? I can't see anything. I quite like the colours though. Decent endorsement, I think. Thank you so much to everyone that's watched till the end of this show. I hope you've subscribed. And if you want a little bit more of the Mad Watch Collector, why don't you join? Yeah, come and join. Also, while I've got you, why don't you stay and watch another show? This one is fantastic. Oh, probably the best one I've done in that week. Well, I only did one, but still, it's a really good show. Yeah, it's all right. You can get a drink and anything you want. Go on. I'll wait. Go on. No, actually, click it. Go on, click it. Click it!